Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. And I've got a fantastic guest for you today for the medical audience, Jessica Jones. And she teaches clients how to build your cash based medical practice. She's going to talk about all the problems and pitfalls with the insurance based system and how to navigate around that so that you can get paid what you're worth. Jessica, welcome.
Thanks for having me. I
Yes.
appreciate being here.
Yeah, start off by introducing yourself, what you do, and excited to dive into the conversation.
Sure. I'm an entrepreneur who had a long history working in marketing and pharmaceutical. My company, as many did, went chapter 7 in 2008. And I was very lucky because I live in Philadelphia. And so had been working with pharmaceutical companies and with political agencies. And pharmaceutical companies said, "Hey, we really need you. We you know, don't know how to do it without you." So I was very lucky to immediately have an opportunity helping to fill in clinical studies. And in doing so, I was working with each study site and gained a reputation for helping physicians to get the practice enrolling where what they needed to enroll and also in growing their practice. So doctors started referring me to doctors and I was helping people scale their practice. And then in 2012, one of the clients said to me, "Hey, I'm starting something new. You're the business side. Why don't you partner with me?" And we built a chain of clinics. We built 15 clinics and sold them in 2015. And then I started six of my own, not one at a time, and grew to six clinics. And then in 2017, I sold the last one of those and said, I never actually wanted to own clinics. But I since 2017 have returned to my roots in consulting medical practitioners on how to own and scale their own practice profitably.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really interesting. And you and I were talking beforehand, and we're talking about the problems with the insurance-based system. And
Mm.
so you mentioned a couple things, headwinds, the private equity, and just there was one post I saw on social media was like this OBGYN, they did a C-section and then the insurance company gave her a payout of 33 cents, which,
Oh God.
you
Yeah.
know,
It's horrible. I work with so many practitioners who are literally seeing 26 patients a day, and it's just like a hamster wheel, for lack of a better term. And it's exhausting and not rewarding and frustrating. And there's like the passion's gone. I've spoken with physicians who are like, I'm thinking of just leaving medicine entirely. But they love medicine and they just have lost that they either crave time with the patients and connection and follow through. There's a surgeon I work with who says, I see them for 5 minutes and then that's it. And I don't even get the reward of seeing how well they're doing after surgery and not making the money. And for lack of a better term, in some cases, I'd say almost PTSD, just overworked and unfulfilled. Hopefully, the goal is to get them serving their passion and feeling passionate again about what they're doing and get the financial rewards that they deserve in the process.
yeah. Yeah, I love med school. I love the academic environment, and I wish somebody in med school had said, just what is the reality? Because I think they shielded us from all the
Mhm.
bureaucracy. Yeah, I was like, "Yeah, I'm out of here." But so, talk about building a cash-based medical practice. And obviously, you're cutting out the middleman. You're gaining your autonomy. What are the first steps? Like someone that's private practice or whatever, and they want to start getting into this. How should they go about it?
Yeah, and it's funny you say that. There's no in fact, I think the training is actually opposite. We don't want you to think about business or money or anything else. I just want you to learn this and just that's it, right? And all these brilliant minds out there say, I don't know the first thing about owning a business. And so it's true. Obviously, the first steps are looking into your state requirements, getting your PLLC or LLC in place and just getting the business in shape. But you also want to think about what is it I want to do that would make me happy. And so that varies for different people. Like I have a cardiac surgeon who wants to help people with longevity. I have an OBGYN who really wants to focus on helping women in their menopausal years. So it's what is it that you're going to be passionate about? I should also say, more often than not, I'm working with people who started a practice, and helping them grow is really focusing on scaling back because they've just built this practice and added things that they're not passionate about. They're not saying it doesn't make sense. They're not happy about what they're doing. So I'm being referred to people who I'm helping to remove things from their practice so that they can grow, right? And help them focus on what is it I can do that's going to make me happy? And then how do I monetize it? And so I'll get often the question of, can I charge this much? Can I charge this much? Is too much? And the answer genuinely is yes, you do need to look at the patient population around you, but it's not about how much you can charge. It's what is the patient getting for what you're charging? And as long as the value's there, you're going to get the patients who are willing to pay it. And then you're going to build your reputation. And then people are going to refer to you and grow, right? And also, I should clarify, we say cash practice. I'm working with a lot of physicians who are doing a hybrid where they are accepting insurance and we're building in cash based services that aren't covered, right? So it's all really about, it's very individual about what the goals of each client, right? But you can't limit yourself. Really, people, I think, have never been more willing to pay for services from a physician because they're also suffering in the insurance model and not feeling that they're getting what they want and need from their medical care. So it really is something that the patients are craving and the physicians are craving.
Yeah, which I was gonna say this coming the audience that are listening, they're like they've been on a traditional insurance model, they've worked for the hospital and they basically churn out their volume, they get a paycheck from their institution, or you have a solo practice, which is
Mhm.
becoming increasingly rare, and they basically see patients and so the common misconception around this is, okay, for example, a surgeon charges X amount for a surgery and the patient's used to just paying a copay, and then now they're being asked to pay like this huge cash amount. Isn't that a
Right.
sticker shock for just I'm just trying to play devil's advocate.
It can be. You mentioned this. I think you mentioned that OBGYN who got 33 cents for a C-section. The reality is the reason physicians are seeing 26 surgeries a day is 26 surgeries a day is not even reimbursing them enough. So oftentimes, if they are treat themselves as out of network and say, you can go to Reimbursify and ask for reimbursement, but this is my fee, oftentimes, they can make more money charging out of pocket, and the patients end up not really paying more than they would have paid. And so you can work through that as you build in your fees for service. But oftentimes, you'd be surprised. There's a lot of cash based surgical practices out there if that's what you want to do. But a lot of the providers I work with aren't necessarily acting under that model. They're either acting under this is how much it costs to work with me for a year. This is how much it costs to work with me for this service or that service. Here's a 3-month, let's individualize your goals, right? If the goal is to live longer and have a more healthy life, then here's what that looks like for you, patient. And here's what it costs to work with me. And here's what you can expect.
Yeah.
So
And are cash-based medical practices, are they only restricted to high end, for example, derm or cosmetic or plastics? I could see it working with family, but talk about that particular objection.
yeah, no, there's no limitation. You can have a cash-based medical practice that is, like I said, focused on one specific thing, like helping women through menopause. Certainly, weight loss is one of the big, more profitable niches. Erectile dysfunction is a more profitable niche. Hormone replacement therapy, although that's a controversial. Some say there's no such thing, and others it is a profitable niche that right now is strong and people are looking for it. Certainly with GLP-1s, that's brought even more people into the cash-based weight loss world. But there's also knee injections and stem cell injections and things like that are cash-based procedures that aren't covered. I actually have practices I work with who are doing injections that are covered by Medicare and are highly reimbursed, get a very nice per patient fee. And so I can't have any conversation without talking about marketing, because marketing is really that's the other piece of the puzzle that's well, it's uncomfortable, right? For practitioners. Like, oh, I don't want to market myself, but it's a critical part of owning a practice that's successful because you've got to get the word out about yourself and you've got to do things that feel uncomfortable so that people hear about you and you gain a reputation and people come in and see you. And then I also get the question, when can I back my marketing spend? In which case I say never. You actually want to increase your marketing spend because as long as you know that you're getting people calling you and coming in the door, more money is only going to grow your practice. And then you can scale and hire people underneath you and stop being the sole driving force of your practice and instead start to make money off of the practice and other people working within the practice, right?
Yeah, which kind of a follow-up question to marketing growing. So what are the most effective strategies you've seen for attracting and retaining patients in a cash-based model?
So attracting it, I know this is a kind of an annoying answer, but it really does depend on what your service is and where you're located. So it's two things, right? If you're there's some places where, believe it or not, there's some places and practice models where newspaper is still a very effective way to engage and bring in new patients. I know people are like, what? Recently, I had somebody referred to me who had just launched this big television campaign, and they're like, we got 3 phone calls, and 2 of them were us testing the phone. And I said, oh, what did you buy? And I only had to take one look. They purchased Remnant Television, and we're heading into a political election. So, of course, they got terrible placements and it didn't work. Time of year is also a factor, right? Like people say to me, oh, I can tell you, like, if you're opening a weight loss clinic and you're not open by October 30th, just wait because it's just, you're going to be spinning your wheels. It doesn't mean don't open, but don't start putting don't expect a ton of patients to come in until really December 26th, right? That'll be slow. But there's other things that aren't so time sensitive. So it really depends on where you are and what your practice is about. There's certainly, as far as weight loss goes, Google pay per click, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, those are going to be the drivers of your initial patient flow. And then as you grow, you can branch out into other more traditional mass media, depending on where you are. As it pertains to anything that's Medicare or an older demographic, depending on where you are, it may be very appropriate for you to consider newspaper, radio, television. In addition to Google pay per click, Google pay per click is typically a good place for anybody to start. And you don't want to rely on one lead generation tool because anything can change, right? If, especially in the digital world, if Facebook suddenly changes their algorithms and that's your only marketing source, then you're probably going to hit a real bump until you figure out what else is going to work for your practice. So you never want to be in that position. You always want to be testing what things will work, what other messages and what other mediums will work for you.
Yeah, interesting. How can people find out more about you and what you do?
Yes, help people scale back to grow. So I also just say my website is Build Your Cash Medical Practice. Doesn't get easier than that. And from there, I offer a free one-on-one where you can just go and schedule time on my calendar and we can talk about your goals and hopefully everybody walks away from that one-on-one with some value to start giving them direction towards what they want to do and if it's right for them.
Yeah, and thanks so much for coming on and providing your wisdom and expertise. And for the audience, be sure to check out Jessica's socials and website and links and see if it's a right fit for you.
Thank you so much for having me.